One wrong move, and he would be crushed. 2 men were left standing against thousands of Philistine soldiers after their army abandoned them. These were not normal soldiers. They were killers, warriors, and trained fighters. The enemies laughed at them until they realized one of those men was a complete monster. To understand how one man stopped an entire army, we must go back. A massive Philistine army marched toward Israel, ready for war. Thousands of soldiers covered the battlefield with bronze armor, iron spears, and war chariots that shook the ground as they moved. Their numbers were enormous. Every man among them was a trained killer, and they advanced together like a single, unstoppable machine. On the other side, the army of King David was falling apart. The Israelite soldiers looked out at the wall of enemy steel coming toward them, and the courage drained right out of them. The sheer size of the Philistine force was enough to break their nerve before a single blow had been struck. Without anyone to hold the line or give the order to stand, the army began to collapse. First, the men on the edges turned and ran. Then, the middle followed. Then all of them, every soldier, dropped their weapons and fled toward the mountain passes. Desperate to get away, the valley went quiet. Where thousands of men had stood moments before, there was now only empty space and the sound of wind moving through a barley field. But 2 men had not moved. Eleazar, the son of Dodo the Ahohite, stood his ground. He came from the Ahohite clan of the tribe of Benjamin, and he was one of the 3 mighty men, the very top rank of King David's elite warriors. Standing beside him was the king himself. While every other soldier ran, these 2 stayed exactly where they were. David scanned the approaching enemy, his jaw tight. "They come for the field," he said quietly. "If we give it to them, we give them the road." Eleazar's eyes didn't leave the Philistines. "Then we don't give them the field." David looked at his warrior for a moment. Eleazar's hands were steady. There was no fear on his face, no sign that his mind was considering retreat. David gave a single nod. "Stand with me," the king said. "I haven't moved," Eleazar replied. The Philistines kept coming. A commander near the front pointed at the 2 lone figures still standing in the middle of the empty valley.
These kids think they can defeat an entire army?
Laughter broke out among his men. They had come expecting a battle and had watched an entire army run away. Now just 2 men stood in their path. It seemed almost funny to them. They were not laughing for long. But what Eleazar could not have known that morning was that this day, great as it was, would be only the beginning of what God still had ahead for him. As the first wave of Philistines reached him, Eleazar did not wait. He moved forward and met them head-on. He fought with explosive, controlled violence, every swing of his sword placed exactly where it needed to be. He moved like a man who had been built for exactly this moment, feet firm on the ground, eyes sharp, body driving forward with each strike. The Philistines tried to use their numbers against him. They crowded in from all sides, thinking sheer weight would be enough to bring him down. It wasn't. He cut through them one by one, and the men he struck did not get back up. A spear came at his chest. He turned it aside and ran his blade through the gap in the attacker's armor. Another soldier charged from his left and was stopped before he could raise his shield.
"He doesn't fall!"
One Philistine shouted to another, stepping back. "Why doesn't he fall?" No one answered. The man who might have replied was already on the ground. Eleazar didn't shout. He didn't taunt or curse. He fought in near silence, steady at the center of all the chaos around him. He was not just holding a patch of dirt. He was holding the future of his people. The sun climbed higher. The fight went on. Every strike of his sword, every block of a shield coming at him, Every step he took cost him more energy than the last. His muscles burned. His lungs worked hard. But he did not stop. As 2 Samuel 23:10 tells us, the men of Israel had gone, but he stood firm and kept striking down the Philistines until his hand grew so tired it froze to the sword. That is not just a way of speaking. His forearm muscles, pushed far beyond what they were meant to handle, stopped responding. His fingers locked around the leather-wrapped handle and could not open. His sword hand and his sword had become one solid thing. He couldn't release the blade even if he had wanted to. But he didn't want to. He kept fighting, swinging from the shoulder, driving forward with his whole body. He stood there winning a battle, while the kingdom around him was quietly growing toward troubles that no single warrior could cut down. At some point, David appeared beside him again, cutting down a Philistine who had been moving to flank him. The king was breathing hard. "Your hand," David said between breaths, glancing at the frozen grip. "It holds," Eleazar said. "It's locked to the hilt." "Then I'm locked to the hilt," Eleazar said, and drove forward again. David said nothing more. He fought alongside his warrior, and together they held the center of that barley field, while the Philistine force, which had arrived laughing, began to crack. Slowly at first, then all at once, the enemy started falling back. The Lord brought about a great victory that day. The stand Eleazar and David made gave the momentum back to Israel. From the hills above, the soldiers who had fled began to hear something different in the noise below. Not the sound of a slaughter, but the sound of the enemy retreating. They came back down. They reached the valley and found the barley field defended, the Philistines broken, and 2 men still standing where the whole army had once stood. There was nothing left for the returning soldiers to do but collect the weapons and supplies the Philistines had dropped as they ran. The hard work was finished. The men who had fled came back to take the reward of a battle they had not fought. Some of them couldn't look Eleazar in the eye as they passed. Others placed a hand on his shoulder without saying a word. What could they say? A young soldier stopped in front of him and stared at the hand still locked around the sword. He started to speak. "Don't!" said an older soldier behind him, pulling him away by the arm. Even so, Eleazar rested easy that night, not knowing that the kingdom he had just saved was already being tested from within. Eleazar's place among the mighty men was beyond question. He was not someone who chased fame. He was a man who had made a commitment and intended to keep it, no matter what keeping it cost him. Being one of the 3 meant being ready to face situations where the odds made no sense. He had faced the very edge of what a human body can take. His name, Eleazar, means God has helped in Hebrew, and it described exactly what he had experienced that day. He knew without any doubt that what had kept him standing went beyond his own strength. That evening, around the fire, an older soldier leaned toward him. "What were you thinking?" the man asked. "When everyone else ran and you stayed?" Eleazar turned a piece of bread slowly in his hands. He was quiet for a moment. "I wasn't thinking," he said. "I was standing." The older man nodded slowly, as if that were the fullest answer anyone could have given. Maybe it was. The story was written down and kept so that no generation would forget it. It is recorded in 1 Chronicles 11:12-14 that the Philistines gathered at Pas-Dammim, that there was a field of barley, that the people fled, but that Eleazar and David held their ground in the middle of that field and struck the Philistines down. The Lord brought a great victory Children grew up hearing his name. Young soldiers who were new to David's service would try to catch a glimpse of him in the training yards, hoping to spot whatever it was that made him different. They rarely found it by looking. It wasn't visible in how he stood or how he spoke. It only showed itself when the ground beneath a man's feet began to shake, and most men never get close enough to the edge to see it in themselves or in others.
These videos take many hours to make. If you could, please like and subscribe. Also, we want to know which countries our viewers are watching this video from. Please comment the country you are watching from. Thank you. Until the next video.